Tension on deck.
Hey, what's going on, Ron? I haven't seen you since last year. You look
I
great.
know, I know. Happy New Year to you and to everybody out there. Uh, we
You
took a
know
couple.
that you know that John and Eric revoked our 28s, right?
Well, that's too bad because you know what? We were the senior guys, and we had the apex.
All
So
right, I'm just
they,
saying.
they can't
No,
they can't revoke it and they can't deny it, right? So for those who are in NYPD, the apex are the senior people get to pick their vacations first, and the apex are the best picks. They're you're only allowed to take two of them for the entire year, and it's the holidays, around Christmas, New Year's, uh, 4th of July, things like that, Memorial Day, Labor Day. So we're the senior guys. We took off.
all
Hopefully,
right.
we appreciate everybody watching our initial videos that we had done with John and Eric on the New York's finest retired and unfiltered podcast, and maybe some of you just got to know us a little bit better through that. So, that being said, Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to 2026. How was your holidays?
I was good. I didn't really, I'm not a big. Well, Christmas is Christmas, right? So that's the for the family and stuff. That's good to get together. And then New Year's, I'm not a big New Year's guy. All those years down at Times Square, watching the ball drop and watching all these animals, the drunks around me. People with diapers on because they're standing there for 16 hours. Um, I lost my I lost my desire to celebrate New Year's Eve. I guess I got PTSD from New Year's Eve. But yeah, it was good. What about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. I want to shout out to Silver Bell for you. Thank you for reposting the stream on X. We appreciate that. Uh, but yeah, again, Christmas with the kids and the family. And then the day after I flew out and I went and saw Mom down in North Carolina. I know John was in angry John mode, and I sent him a picture trying to be serene of my view as I was watching the show to tell him to calm down, Zen mode, because I was up in the mountains. It was beautiful, and I saw that he saw it. He chuckled and he put the picture up. So yeah, I went and saw my mom. So that was nice to spend time down there with the kids. It was a great visit. Kids loved it. Their first time on an airplane, so it was good. It was nice. Then we came back. We had New Year's Eve here. Kids actually stayed up, and so that was that. And now we move on, right? We move on into 2026. But first, if I might, thank you. I appreciate you indulging me. I would just like to just take a moment to acknowledge a pillar of my community, my next door neighbor, Nancy Coven, who passed away this week, and we buried her today. So 81 years old, would have been 81 years old, January 20th, a public school teacher, for her entire career, very full of life. It was sad when she got sick, and but hopefully she's resting in peace. And so I just wanted to dedicate today's show to our friend Nancy Coven. So thanks for that. But yeah, so there we are. And then I guess before we get into the topics of the day, again, just before we got on the air, we have some breaking news. In Minneapolis, in Minnesota, ICE was conducting a deportation raid in a community, and the community residents came out again to protest. Community resident, well, actually, I don't know where the person's from, came out, blocked their way, and unfortunately, ICE moved in, attempted to, from the video I saw, this is my interpretation, attempted to place her under arrest. She lunges the vehicle forward. An agent lets some rounds go. So you want to say anything about it before we put the video up? We'll show the first video that's been thrown around and circulated on the air. On that,
Yeah, we can show the first video, right? I think I just real quick. Gary Krutzer, 1239. I love what he put together right there, real quick. Right, that's why we love cops, right? They're so quick. People that shit diapers, PTSD. That was perfect, my friend. Very good, Gary.
Yeah. And thank you for the condolences, everybody. We appreciate it. Terry, Lily, hardcore. We'll get to them. All right. So let's put this video up, then we'll talk about it a little bit. Then I have actually another one that I pulled down that's like a slow motion in 3 different angles. But here's the one that initially was put out and is posted all over the internet. Nope, that's not it. Sorry.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking God! What the fuck? What the fuck? You just fucking, what the fuck did you do? Get the fuck out of our neighborhood. Out car. Out car. Get out of the fucking car. No! No!
What the fuck? Dude, what the?
So you clearly hear them telling her to get out of the car. They're clearly identifiable as law enforcement. So what's your initial take on it?
Well, I mean, first of all, if they're protesting, right? Why are they in a vehicle? Usually, you don't protest that way. I mean, I've never seen a vehicle really protesting. And obviously, they were blocking the ICE agents, and then we all know, right? The patrol guide. If we're talking about NYPD and our patrol guide, and within the penal law, the way the penal law is structured, when a vehicle is used as a weapon, you're allowed to use deadly physical force. Obviously, you're supposed to, if you can, take precautions and get out of the way. But if you can't, obviously, as a last resort, you have to use your firearm to protect yourself. So what I see there is an agent, and from some of the other angles that I've seen, the agent actually gets hit. I believe his foot either gets run over or his leg gets hit. And at that point, I think in order that agent to protect themselves, they discharge their weapon at the driver. Obviously, we always discharge to stop the individual, not to kill the person. But that's what you want to do. You want to stop that vehicle from proceeding and running you over, because you never know what the injuries that you could sustain. There, it's a vehicle, and it's a weapon at that point. She's using that as a weapon. What she should have done was, stayed there and take whatever action was going to be taken. That's what you see all these other people, right, in the demonstrations. They get arrested, right? They stop what they're doing. They get arrested, and then what do? They get released 15, 20 minutes later or whatever. I mean, that's what she should have done. So I don't see any misconduct. I don't see any criminal charges from my perspective. But I'm not in Minnesota either. So
yeah, we're gonna show a video, and hardcore is saying the Minnesota, the mayor is a whack job. He's inciting violence. He should be collared. We'll show videos of that too, of what he has to say in a minute. But let's take another look from a different angle. This is another video that's been circulating, and it's a slow motion video from 3 different angles. And then we'll discuss it. So, I mean, in that video, in the second clip, it appears that the agent is being struck in the front. And, you know, I've had conversations, you know, while I was trying to prepare for this, because like I said, it was last minute, just came up before we went on the air, that, you know, people were questioning, why is his gun drawn and everything else? Well, there's two sides to that. I mean, first of all, we know that on any car stop, to have your gun drawn, you know, is justifiable. You know, I'm not saying pointing the gun at somebody, but if you, countless times I've had my gun out and held at my side, you know, to have a tactical advantage. People don't know. I mean, the ICE agents were shot at recently, right? ICE agents were rammed. Their vehicles were rammed. They were rammed. Those are terrorist attacks, right? With the adjustment to the New York City Police Department patrol guide procedure of not firing at a moving vehicle unless something other than the vehicle was being used as deadly physical force was changed after that ramming incident in Manhattan, where that terrorist went and on the sidewalk and ran over a whole bunch of people. And we've seen it throughout the nation where that's a new type of terrorist attack. So the New York City Police Department even adjusted theirs and said that if it's that type of an incident, firing at the vehicle, even if it's not imminent danger to you, is justified. Now, like you said, there's a differentiation between the patrol guide, which is just rules and procedures and a guide for the police officers to handle their job. And then the penal law is another question, because the penal law, you may violate department guidelines, but the penal law says that that vehicle is a deadly instrument. And it's obvious that when you slow that video down and you look at it, that ICE agent is standing in front of the vehicle when she lurches that vehicle forward. At that time, he draws his weapon. He doesn't draw his weapon until after the vehicle is moving forward.
Well, like I've said in the past, like if you have a car stop, right? If you do a car stop, you can have your weapon on the side. In fact, when we were taught to kind of blade your body and you can even have your weapon on, you know, behind your leg or whatever, so it's an easier draw. So to have your weapon out, to me, is of no concern. That you're allowed to do that, and to technically right there, they're confronting a protester, but it's still a vehicle stop, right? So you don't know what's in that vehicle, you don't know anything else about it. So it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to have their gun out at that point. So the naysayers are going to say, oh, well, after he passed, or the driver passed, you know, the threat was over. Not necessarily, right? That person could have backed up. That person could have proceeded down the road to other agents. So if that person had the intent at that point to drive over, or even thought about it recklessly driving over, no, you know, for me, the justification is there. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that they'll follow federal statute. So I'm not very familiar what that is, but again, I don't see any particular problem with what they did, how they responded to the vehicle, and like you've been saying just now, even if they did have their weapon out prior to the car stop, absolutely, right? How many times did we on a car stop we were taught, you go up, you hit the back of the trunk, right, to make sure the trunk wasn't open. Someone will say, okay, that's, you know, you could touch it, so your prints on there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's all procedures, but it wasn't uncommon to have your gun out. And if you didn't have your gun out, your partner should have your gun out just in case, because again, a car, you don't know what's in there, right? The deadly stops. We talk about car stops are never routine. We talk about, you know, no domestic violence jobs are never routine. So, you know, like John and Eric will often say, you know, police work is ugly, right? It's not pretty all the time. And 100%.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, you also, like you said, don't know what additional threats are in that vehicle. Now, this is a screen capture I did from the video, and because somebody I was speaking to was saying that why was he standing in front of the car pointing his gun at her? So she might have gotten scared and then tried to drive off because she felt threatened. Well, first of all, once again, they're clearly identifiable as federal ICE agents and law enforcement. Second of all, when you slow the video down, he draws his weapon at this point, and this is when she lunged the vehicle forward, and the tires are straight, pointed at him. Yes, the tires did turn to the right, but this is all, again, we have the Monday morning quarterbacking ability to go frame by frame on this, right? This is a split-second decision this agent had to try and stop a lethal threat of that SUV. That SUV is pointed at him. Why didn't he just step out of the way? First of all, there's nothing that says that we ever have. There's no, rule that says that we have to retreat. Second of all, it's again a split-second issue where that one agent's trying to get her to come out of the car. He's ordering her out of the car, and he's walking past the car, and she lunges the car forward. Then the car turns to the right. He lets the round go. And it appears that he might have let a couple more rounds go as the car was right at his side. But again, you're trying to, at that point, stop a threat. If she's trying to run him over, which is, again, I'm not in his head, but if his perception, remember, it's the reasonableness of the officer, right? What did the officer reasonably believe at the time of the incident, right? We've talked about that. It's a Supreme Court case. The reasonableness of the officer. What did the officer reasonably believe the threat was at the time? Not what we sat here and frame by frame from 17 different angles and cell phones later decide what his options were. What did he, as a reasonable police officer, decide his options were at the time? And to stop that lethal threat of that vehicle from striking him or any other agent, because if she's coming at him straight on, what's to think that she's not going to try and strike any other agents that are in the area? Because we know there were other agents down the road. So at this point is when he takes his firearm out. And the first bullet hole is right in the windshield. So the first round that was fired was a shot as she's lunging towards him. And again, like you said, I'm quoting NYPD protocol, completely irrelevant. Like I think Hardcore was saying, completely irrelevant to this situation, the NYPD procedures. We're just putting it out there for our members because, we have a NYPD and a New York-based, mainly New York-based audience, even though we know that there's a lot of people watching from around the country, and we really appreciate that. But that's why I threw in the New York thing. I'm not holding them to a New York standard. Like you said, we don't know the federal guidelines. We don't know what the federal, but the federal government, the Department of Justice, is already coming out saying that they fired their gun in what appears to be defensive posture.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, you said a reasonable police officer. I would even say I would even say that a reasonable person, right? If you were a regular person standing in front of that vehicle like that, and you wouldn't suspect that that person lunges forward, that they're going to try to hit you and run you over. Absolutely, 100%. I don't think there would be ever a problem if you were to put that in front of a grand jury or anywhere else. So I don't think, did they do anything wrong? I mean, you could say, tactically, I would say maybe, but this is a dynamic situation, and they're trying to make the arrest. So I mean, it is whatever procedure they have and whatever laws that they're under. I think it was followed, in my opinion. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I mean, you don't like we said, you don't expect the officer to be run over and be laying there and then everything's okay. And again, I say, why is she protesting inside a vehicle anyway? I mean, and we know we had our issues with Minnesota as it is. Like we put on a previous podcast some of the stuff that was said. So and the chief of what he said. So I mean, we'll talk about it, I guess, in a little while, but did they contribute to some of this?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. But why is she protesting from the car? Well, because she's using her car like they've been doing to try and box in the ICE agents and preclude them from doing. They're committing a federal crime. They're interfering with a federal investigation and federal law enforcement officers. They play by different rules. They have different laws that they have at their disposal. Where in New York, you can get yelled at, you can get screamed at, they can block your way, people aren't going to do anything, the job's not given the proper discretion and guidance, like John and Eric, had their show where these cops are being ridiculed and, the job's not given proper guidance on how to handle that like we did in the old days. And it comes to the same thing where they block the streets and they block our ways and this, that, and the other thing. And the job doesn't give guidance because the DAs aren't prosecuting. The job's giving you a hard time. They don't want you to be confrontational. CCRB will crush you and all this other shit. The feds don't play by those rules. They have federal guidelines and federal laws. It's like lying to the FBI is a crime. You can say whatever you want to the NYPD. You can lie all you want. It's not a crime. You lie to the feds, it's a crime, right? So they have federal laws, and to obstruct them is a federal violation. And so she was going to be arrested for that federal violation because they've had enough, and they started not just allowing people to just do all these things anymore.
Yeah, well, Sleepy Joe said she was the blocker vehicle. She had the blocker detail. But here's the thing also that they put the car in front of you and block you. You don't know what else is coming around the corner, right? You don't know if anybody else is on. You don't know what their tactics is they're doing. So you should be able to, there should be a clean means of egress for them as well. So when you start blocking them, they have to take action. So I mean, it's like I said, I don't find any problem with it. So.
Hey, Steven, I appreciate you always being with the show. You got to give me a spot on so I get credit. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you don't get credit.
Give me a right on. I don't get credit for that one, right?
No.
We count the spot ons. But we appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's a sad situation all around. It's sad that this woman lost her life because she was standing up for what she thought was right, but doing it in the wrong way. Because there's a right way and a wrong way to protest. And I did watch Governor Walz's. I didn't get a chance to download any of it because it was just before we came on. But Governor Walz came on, and of course he condemned it and talked about, how horrible the federal government is and the administration and everything else. And then the commissioner on public safety for the state came on, and he did talk about the right way to protest. If you want to protest, that's your God-given right, and we all agree with that on this platform. You have the absolute right to protest, but you have to do it in a legal and safe manner, right? The First Amendment allows you to peaceably protest, not to physically obstruct law enforcement from conducting their duties, not to put your hands on people, not to spit in people's face, not to throw things at people, at law enforcement, to peaceably protest. You want to stand there, you want to have your little watch parties and figure out where ICE is going and where they're working and have your networks and everything else. That's fine. You have the leaks in the government, you have leaks in ICE, you have leaks in local law enforcement, wherever the leaks are coming from. We talked about this on the prior shows. That's all well and good, even though it's not good. But if you want to go there and stand on the sidewalk and scream at them to get out of town, what you're doing is wrong, blah, 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 have at it. You don't have the right to actively engage in this type of disobedience where you are infringing on the rights, of law enforcement to conduct their job. It's their job. You don't have to agree with it, but it's their job under the law. And it's a tragedy that this happened. It's a tragedy for that ICE agent. Do you think that ICE agent came to work today saying, I'm going to take out a protester if somebody pisses me off. If somebody gets in my way, I'm going to take out my gun and shoot them? No. No law enforcement officer that I've ever met wants to be involved in a situation like that, wants to have to discharge their firearm and take somebody else's life. It is a burden that we all carry. It's something that we carry that we may have to do every day that causes stress in our lives. That guy didn't want to come to work and kill somebody today. I'll never believe that.
No, I mean, that's not. I mean, people think that's what happens, but that's not. Like you've said, I've never met somebody that wants to say, "I want to kill somebody today. I want to shoot somebody." Absolutely not. Most people in the NYPD go through the whole career without even discharging their firearm. So
100%. And thankfully so, right?
yeah,
You don't hear people say when they retire, I never got a chance to shoot anybody.
no,
Never. I've
no.
never heard any of the people in my life ever say anything like that. They're like, thank God I didn't have to be in that situation. I feel for that rookie. I feel for that cop that now has to go through the rest of their life, carrying the burden that they had to take somebody else's life, or even to hurt somebody. Even if you don't take the life and you shoot somebody and you injure them or whatever the case, it's just terrible. It's terrible.
Not to mention the internal questioning and all the interviews that you have to go through, especially within the NYPD about something that you probably were justified and was considered a good shooting, that you didn't violate any patrol guide procedures of the law, but you're still through with scrutiny of other people second guessing what you're doing. So I mean, that in itself is stressful enough, not only to yourself but to your family, your friends, the officers that work with you. So I mean, there's a lot that goes on with it, especially within the NYPD. I mean, you're usually stripped of your gun for a little while, and evaluated. So I mean, there's a whole rigmarole of procedures you go through, and truthfully, it's not really fair. So it's almost emasculating that they do everything that they do. After you've done something good.
Yeah,
So
it's terrible. Good evening to Mike Freed, great friend of the podcast. Yeah, we're going to get into it. I'm going to show a couple of videos of Mayor Frey and what he had to say, and we'll discuss that. But yeah, Stephen S. again. What the public should know is when.
oh, mom's mad at you.
No, I don't know. Somebody's calling. What the public should know is that when you resist anything, anything can happen, up to and including death. What was she doing there in the first place, and what was her intent, criminal intent? So yeah, she was, it's just, it's terrible. So let's take a look at what the mayor of Minnesota, Minneapolis, has to say about this situation in ICE in general. And again, looking at the screen, look to his left. It's his right, but when you're looking at the screen, it's on your left. It's our friendly police commissioner or police chief that we've discussed and highlighted on prior shows, who basically told the community to call 911 on the federal agents, and that his people weren't going to respond to help federal agents.
We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed.
This is the way to keep your community safe, to keep your community de-escalated, right? To de-escalate the situation. Instead of going out and saying, let's wait until an investigation plays out, No, I looked at it, and this is just reckless, basically saying murder.
Yeah, he's definitely throwing gasoline on the fire. And what does he anticipate that people within the community are going to do when they hear their political leaders say those types of rhetoric that the police are definitely wrong and everything else? So what is he looking to do? He's looking to start a whole fire. It's going to be the same what we've seen in the past. We'll have the CNN reporter, and it's mostly a calm protest while the whole building is burning up behind them. And why would I truthfully, if a resident and the mayor says that, I wouldn't even want him to say that. Like you just said, let's evaluate and get the information. Let's look at all the videos, and then we can make an informed decision. By throwing this gasoline onto the fire, all you're doing is inflaming everybody else and saying, you know what, our mayor said it was wrong, so it's wrong. So now we as a community got to go out there, protest. We got to cause damage. We got to do other things. You're putting all law enforcement at risk at that point. Everywhere in that area, in the mayor, wherever the mayor is, in Minneapolis or wherever, all of that is gonna erupt. And then why would you want your own community to do that? Why would you want it? You should be calling for calm, and we're gonna evaluate all the information, and we'll come to an informed decision. And then if we have to do demonstrations, vigils, or whatever, then we'll do them. But again,
Yeah,
he's just throwing gasoline on the fire.
William Robert Nolan, he's over on Facebook. He's commenting because I know everybody can't see. Just so everybody knows, the comments that are coming up from the other
Platforms.
the other platforms. Thank you. If you come over to YouTube, the chat's a lot more interactive. You can see what everybody's saying, and everybody else can see what you're saying. So I don't believe that the chat can see the Facebook post and the X posts unless I put them up on the screen. But William Robert Nolan is saying, Walsh is now attempting to pit the National Guard against ICE. And I did see that he put out a readiness notice to his National Guard who are drilling, basically giving them notice that, you may be called up from the state governor. He didn't say it was against ICE, but he was definitely inferring it by watching the press conference. It was definitely inferred, but he's going to need it probably because there's going to be a lot of community unrest, and the community unrest is not being helped by the local law enforcement and the local government. So let's see. Everybody else was talking about this part of the video of the press conference from Mayor Frey and our good police chief. I forget his name, and I really don't care to remember it. But let's listen to the second soundbite we have.
I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave.
I mean, who are you to tell the federal government to leave and not do their job? You want to say that people that are in your communities are being upstanding pillars of the community and contributing to the community and everything else. They are here illegally, and ICE is their job for the Customs and Border Patrol, right? The immigrations to go out and enforce the immigration laws. If a sanctuary city chooses to invoke their laws of sanctuary city, that they're not going to assist in these deportation operations, that's one thing. We've discussed that ad nauseum, right? But to do what he's doing and say what he's saying, that they're being terrorized, no, they're being arrested, families are being separated, illegals are being removed, and it happens, right? If you commit a crime, right? If you're at home and you commit domestic violence and the police come into your house, they're going to break up your family because they're going to arrest you because you broke the law. And if there's not another family member that can take care of that child, yes, that child is going to be separated from the family and put into the custody of the state. And in this case, it will be the custody of the federal government. That's just the way it is. Don't break the law. You don't have to worry about it. But to say, we don't want you here, too bad. I'm sorry. Too bad. We don't want you here? That's their job. They're the federal government. You don't want to do it? Okay. But to tell them to just leave, fine, just be lawless.
Yeah, leave, and you know what? How about we don't give them any federal funding too? Then that the city of Minneapolis doesn't get any federal funding. Let's see how fast they backtrack. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but at 1740 hours, TC said the rioters stormed the federal courthouse in Minneapolis already. So I mean, whatever rhetoric was being spewed, that they've already assembled and they've already started making their mark, and it just again, it really incited. He should be arrested for just inciting the violence in himself, right? So, but it's crazy. I don't know.
And it's only going to get worse. This was the spark that was just waiting to happen on the timbers in Minneapolis, without a doubt. This was the spark. It's going to ignite it, and they're going to blame law enforcement. They're going to blame federal law enforcement. They're going to blame Trump, right? They're going to blame the DOJ. They're going to blame ICE for going in and doing their job. And when you watch all the commentators, because I was switching around on all the different channels, when they're saying that they're watching these different views and these different videos, I haven't heard one person say on any of the channels, right? MSNBC or whatever they're called today, CNN, Fox, News Nation. I was flipping around as I was trying to get this together, and all the commentators I heard on all the different platforms, all the different shows, were all basically saying the same thing. Let's not jump to conclusions from what it appears. It appears to be self-defense, and you got to take into consideration what the police officer was thinking. And you're going to have the ones that are going to come out and say that it was absolute murder, that she was unarmed. She wasn't unarmed. She was armed with a 2-ton SUV. So she was armed. That is a deadly weapon, people. It doesn't have to be a gun or a knife. Anything that could cause serious physical injury or harm is a deadly weapon or a dangerous instrument, right? So she wasn't unarmed.
I have to apologize to Hardcore X. I didn't see his comment, but I plagiarized exactly what he said. So I apologize. I think it's just that great minds think the same. Hard X Core. That's all. That's what I'm saying. So
I missed the comment.
But yeah, you're absolutely right.
I know our friend Hassan Mo
yelled at me.
Yeah, he yelled at your beard, and he said I was mafiosa today.
That's
we love you. We love you, Mo.
But yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. I think we've rolled into something that's probably going to be, like you said, the catalyst. This is what they were looking for. This was the something that they can hang their hat on now.
Right.
And,
And look what Marlon, to your point exactly, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but to your point exactly what Marlon is saying, right? He wants mass civil disobedience. It's a great distraction for all the problems his city like bankruptcy and the Somalian related fraud. Right?
Perfect.
So this is a great distraction. Somebody said it earlier, this takes, the spotlight off of Governor Walz and the whole Somalian fraud incident. But yeah, like I said, it's the spark that's igniting what they have. Their rhetoric has been pushing.
Yeah, no, exactly. What else you got?
Oh, I mean, it really just, it's a sad situation. It's a sad situation. It's been brewing, and yeah, really, I mean, I hate to see it, no matter what your views are, it doesn't really matter, because this is a terrible situation for that woman, for her family. Did she put herself in a position that caused this outcome? I think she did. But I'm not victim blaming before people start calling me victim blaming, because I don't know, it's terrible what happened, but she was breaking the law. She was resisting arrest. She was fleeing from federal agents, and she had her car pointed directly at a federal agent when the car lunged forward. And that agent, in that split second, made a decision, like I said, that none of us want to make, and felt the only way to stop that threat was to fire his weapon. And I just see it that way. So I'm a little behind in the comments, so if I missed anything on this, I'll try to catch up with it. But anything else on this? We're 43 minutes in. I know we were trying to go short. We were trying to trim it down today, but it ain't happening.
Yeah, no. No, it never does.
No, something always comes up, right? Something always comes up. So, all right. So let's come back to the city. And can't get that to come down. Sorry. There we go. All right. So again, new year. We have a new administration here in New York. Mayor Mamdani was sworn in the old City Hall subway station. And he is now the mayor of New York City. We've been talking about what's it going to be like. How is it going to be working with the police department? How's it going to be for the city in general? And 7 days in, and like we put in the thumbnail, he's come out swinging. So the first thing he does when he is elected and sworn in.
I just want to jump in real quick. I'm not, against any religion, but when you're sworn in and you swear on the Quran, I think that sends a message immediately. I've seen it where people in the courtrooms refuse to put their hand on the Bible because they don't believe in the Bible, but they're still sworn in on their oath. So I just think by being sworn in on the Quran, I think it immediately sends a message to everybody. Like that's to me, that's the first swing. It's like, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how it's going to be run. And I don't care what people say. And is it then when you do something like that, are you the mayor for Muslim people? Are you the mayor for the people in the city? Or you're mayor for your own religious beliefs, I think that immediately starts a divide. Immediately. And that to me was the first punch. Okay. When he came out swinging, to me, that was the first punch. And I think I'm almost, my speculation is that he did it on purpose to send a message that this is how I was elected and that. And listen, I believe in religious beliefs, right? So, and I believe in religious freedom. But you are the mayor for the city of New York. You are there a political. You should really like the police department almost be apolitical, right? That we really don't get involved in anything. We don't take sides based on your your gender, race, color or creed. And I think that immediately sends a deep message to everybody. To me, that was the first swing. That was listen, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna show you who I am. So that's my first swing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's what I just felt was the first thing. And then if we want to get into the other things where he starts a couple more, that was the first left, and now he's gonna come with us on a couple rights here. So
yeah, I mean, to that point, one thing that I found interesting about that is that, and again, I'm not familiar with the Muslim faith, and enough to really speak on it. But when he swore and took his oath, the last 4 words of the oath, do you know what they are?
oh well,
So help me God.
right.
Now, I don't know, and if there's anybody that's Muslim in the chat can tell me if saying "So help me God" is different from Allah. Is Allah synonymous with God? Like, I was expecting, to be honest with you, I was expecting to say "So help me Allah."
Oof.
No, I mean, and
I think it's
I'm not I'm not criticizing that. I'm ignorant to the fact. So I don't know if anybody knows how that correlates. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Muslim faith at all. But it's something that just that caught my all right. So it's all the way at the bottom. I just saw it come up on my phone. I really hate 547.
As far as I know,
Hasib Ahmed, 1915, said Muslim here. It's the same thing as Allah. So okay,
right.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. And again, I meant no disrespect to anybody of the Muslim faith. I was just my ignorance and did not know.
Yeah, everybody's saying it. So
okay, so thank you for clarifying that for me. It was just something that I wasn't aware of. So
there are some things in the Quran that aren't as forgiving as whether or not you say Allah or God. But I don't want to get into a whole religious thing.
Yeah, no, I don't either. And it was just you brought it up, the point of him, being the first mayor to be sworn in on a Quran. So that was something that just struck me watching the ceremony. So
again, BX90 NYC is saying that, right, this is United States of America. We work for the Constitution. The whole founding fathers was a nation based on God. But I just think you want to be for the people. That's my opinion. You don't want to be for all the people, not just for any particular group. You want to be, if an Italian just said, I'm here for all the Italian people, everybody else would be up in arms and say, well, why are you here just for the Italians? What about this city is a multicultural city, the melting pot of the country, right? And then now it's just based on that. So I don't know. I think it could have been done more diplomatically. That's all. That's all. And I'm putting you in a minor violation logbook according to 9-2 Charlie. So you got one, pal. Sorry.
You know, I'm backed up on the comments. So would you rather
Yeah,
me?
well.
Would you rather me in the conversation or just completely doing?
No, see, the problem was you're one of the guys that are honest and you say it. If you didn't say it, we would it wouldn't have been noticed.
If I just stayed completely in the conversation, that's why sometimes it's like you think I'm ignoring you, but I'm just trying to keep up, and I'm doing the production behind the scene. And I gotta take down certain items and put new items in the queue because you're only allowed. It only holds a certain amount of. People don't know what goes behind the magic curtain here. You know,
That's it.
and I have to take down the stuff that I showed already to make room for future, things. And sometimes the chat, if it's really going, I could be 15 minutes behind because they're just flying in, and I'm trying to be respectful of throwing people's comments up. And I don't want to be in the next topic when I start bringing up things like there's still some stuff up here, about what's going on down with Governor Walz and everything. But
All right, it's a warning I'm honest. Relax, big guy.
all right, I appreciate that. So, hey, listen, I didn't get my first CD on the job. My first command discipline until I was a captain. So,
You waited. That was
waited.
good.
I waited. I got all my discipline as an executive. So, no white shirt immunity for this guy. But all right, so what's the first thing he does? Right? First executive order Mayor Mamdani does is that he revokes all of Eric Adams' executive orders that were issued on or after September 26, 2024, and that were in effect until New Year's Eve. They're just all revoked unless they're specifically stated in future executive orders. So what's significant about September 26, 2024? That's the day that he gets indicted. So in his statements after the fact of why he chose that date and why he did that is he felt that the administration was tainted after that and the public had lost faith in the city government. I don't know if that was the date that it happened. I think that there might have been some loss of some, people weren't having too much faith in the government prior to that with a lot of things going on. So, so that's the first thing that he takes, he takes care of. He says, all right, that's it. So there was 9 executive orders that were affected by this. So let's just take a look. And if you want to, just go over them, here's the first breakdown, right? Here's a breakdown, right? The Israel and anti-Semitism related, right? The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, definition of anti-Semitism, right? Which equates, it rescinded the adoption of that definition, which basically added to anti-Semitism certain criticisms of it. And, it basically said the definition states that denying the Jewish people the right to self-determination is now discriminatory. Mamdani has repeatedly refused to recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. So that's where that, excuse me, comes into, importance, right? An anti-BDS ban lifted restrictions on city agencies from boycotting, divesting from, or sanctioning Israel. And then the protest rules. So this one affects the NYPD, right? It nullified an order directing the NYPD to assess rules for protests near houses of worship, which followed that synagogue debacle that we discussed. So if you want to
just real quick though, the anti, if we go back to the previous slide, the anti BDS, I think it was BDS you had up there, right? The anti BDS ban.
right.
It said lifted restrictions on city agency boycotting, divesting from, or sanction Israeli. So if you think about that, when they talk about minority vending, that could also affect that because there are Jewish people Jewish females that are part of the minority vending, some of which I purchased things through, our budget and things where you had to, put things out to bid, and you had to pick a minority vendor. Out in Brooklyn, there was, certain things that we purchased were actually from, Jewish women and stuff like that. There's also, female blacks and everything else. So, but you talk about that, now it's going to say that it lists the restriction. So, city agents can say, well, we're not going to purchase anything from them specifically because, they're they're buying things from Israel or whatever. They're selling something from Israel. So that also could have an adverse effect on the NYPD as well. It could also pump up the price for other things, right? If once they know that they can't purchase things, it's less competitive. But I just wanted to throw out there, I think that in itself, starts a little bit of the ball rolling, so.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this is the order on, it was executive order number 61,
Yep.
right? So you want to go into this one a little bit?
Yeah, we can definitely do this one. I mean, this, to me, it had a lot of things in it, right? Particularly that it asked the police commissioner, in coordination with their law department, to start looking at, particularly zones of safety, where they could have, how many feet there should be from particular entrances. And from what my understanding is, this all, I believe this was signed in December, right? So I believe this
Yeah.
all stems out from, like you and I had spoken about, that incident in the 19th precinct at the, when there was a Jewish speaker,
Yeah.
trying to get people to move over to come to go to Israel, and there was opposition to that, and there's also opposition to the law, which we said we don't enforce federal law or whatever. I mean, we spoke about that. If you want to go back to our previous podcast and check that out, I thought we did a complete breakdown. Anthony Raganella was on with us for that one, right? So was he on that with that one? I thought he was, but anyway, that's up one of our previous podcasts, and we break that down. But now they, because of that, and because of the problems that they had with getting people through and people into the venue, Eric Adams put this out, and he put in, whether it's 15 feet or even up to 60 feet to allow people means of egress. And truthfully, I don't really have a problem with that, and I think that should be really anywhere, right? Anywhere you have a demonstration, you should allow people to be able to come in and go about their business. And like you brought it up the last time, sight and sound, right? So so the protesters have to be able to be seen and heard. And you can do that 15 to 60 feet and still give people a means of egress in and out of the venue if they so choose to do so. And I would also say that I would want a clear means of egress down the block. Like that was a block that had the fire department and the police department on that block.
Yes.
So let's not block emergency services, and let's also allow people the use of the sidewalk too. We don't have to take up the whole sidewalk. And if you do take up the whole sidewalk, because that's where you're putting your demonstrators or that's being done, let's have another area where there's a means of a walkway that people can walk up and down the block. And I think we talked about that, how the planning didn't go good, and how it bounced up to the borough, and Eric Pagan apparently took the hit for it, and
Right.
from what I understood, retired. But to me, this is rescinded specifically as a slight against the types of Jewish things that happen, whether it's a synagogue, demonstrations, etc. So I think this particularly, the reason why Eric Adams did that was as a result of the 19th precinct, and I think that I don't know what the real issue was. It kind of doesn't affect it kind of affects everybody, right? I mean, it just allows for people to still peacefully protest while the regular people that still want to go back and forth have the capability to do that.
Yeah, and I don't honestly, personally, I think this was just to placate to the community that was complaining about the synagogue.
Adams placating?
Adams placating, yeah, absolutely. And I think that Hochul, it came down to, I think you sent me something just before the show.
Yeah, she's looking at it now too. So
Right. Well, no, Tony Raganella sent us it, right?
right, yep.
Right. Tony sent us an email, but I didn't get a chance to put anything together. I'm sorry. I was out at the funeral today. But Hochul's doing this. Hochul is doing the same exact thing, and she says she's going to expand on it. She really didn't get into it in what was it in? It was in not the city. I don't know if you could pull it up, but she's basically looking to do the same thing statewide. And it's been shot down in federal court in the past. But we already have guidelines. Like you said, sight and sound. What people don't understand about sight and sound is basically when it was explained on the prior show, and Rob touched on it, is you have the right to peaceably protest. But we have the right to put you in a certain area and designate a protest area that gives you what's called sight and sound, which means you can see the area or the thing that you're looking to protest and can be heard from that area. I can't put you 6 blocks away. I can't put you a block away because it has to be sight and sound. You have to be able to see it, and they have to be able to and be heard. Your protest has to be able to be heard, and not necessarily with a sound amplification device. That there, when properly done, alleviates this whole problem of the buffer zone and the safety zone. Just set up the sight and sound where you have clear egress into, from an entrance into these sensitive locations, whether it be the houses of worship or what's talked about in all the laws or the abortion clinics and things like that. Because those are the two big, the houses of worship and the abortion clinics are the two big things that always come up in court with the protests and these buffer zones and free zones and everything else. So to me, this was just a bunch of, okay, here, look what I'm doing. Because technically, in my eyes, we already have it. We already have it in the laws, and we already have it in our department guidelines that we can set these things up. Setting up sight and sound properly allows for a buffer zone, because if you're 15 feet or 60 feet away, you have sight and sound.
I just want to jump back to the Executive Order 60, the one we spoke about the first time, I think. That was the mayor agency heads, right? They're not allowed to contract anything. The prior appointees contracting from engagement procurement practices discriminate the state of Israel. I don't know if you saw this, but it also the executive order also prohibited the chief pension administrator and mayoral trustees in the city pension system from opposing divestment from bonds and other assets that would discriminate against the state of Israel, Israel's citizens, or those associated with Israel. So now you're talking about investments that we may have felt were good, and now it allows them, by him removing that executive order, it also allows them to now invest our pension into something else. And we're already in a pension problem, right? We're already in it's gonna it's being overused. It's really being abused, and I think that this is just another thing. So, and then I'm sorry to jump back to what you just spoke about. If there was things that were already in place in the police department and things that we did, like sight and sound, sanctioning people off for demonstrations, why was it necessary to stop this executive order when in fact it didn't really do anything other than what we already do? It just exemplified that, the police department had to look into it, from the administrative position, from top down and legally.
There's no policy in this executive order. This executive order just says, hey, take a look at it.
So why? Why did he do that? Why was it necessary?
Because he blanketed it. He did it from September 24th, 2024. He felt that basically the city government had no credibility, and so anything they did after that was tainted. So I'm going to use that date in order to just nullify all the executive orders. But truly and honestly, was it because,
Come on, say it.
you know, he's an anti-Zionist. There's no denying it. He does not deny it, right?
No.
And
this was an anti-Semitic attack because all of these had to do, and what he did is he went back to a date. He looked for a date that would work for him. Okay. And conveniently, Mayor Adams, who was indicted, but that's as far as it went, right? Was that day or whatever. So let me go back to that date, because the reason I go back to that date, because then we'll encompass everything of those executive orders that I don't like, because they talk about, Jewish things, and they talk about, state of Israel, all of those things. Now I can get rid of them, and I'll pick this
exactly.
And pick this date.
Right. Well, because of the adoption of the IHRA definition, right? Says you're not allowed to say, says that you're being anti-Semitic if you say that the Jewish people don't have the right to their own state, the state of Israel, which he refuses to acknowledge and recognize.
Right. And also an individual that promised he was going to arrest Netanyahu, which he clearly has no jurisdiction at all to do when he comes here.
Right.
So,
but the revoked. All right. So then other key ones that got revoked in those 9, right, is, again, this is an irrelevant one because the court's already shut it down, right? ICE at Rikers revoked an order allowing immigration and custom enforcement to operate at Rikers Island for criminal investigations. Again, he was against this until he became MAGA Eric when his indictment was squashed, right? Then he was all for working with ICE and everything else, but originally he was totally against that. And the courts shut this down anyway. The rat mitigation office, okay. Cryptocurrency office.
Wait. The rat mitigation. Why get rid of that? Who wants rats? What the hell, man?
I don't know, because Mamdani said he hates rats too.
I know. How does that fall into play?
It falls into
the time period.
He just blanket cut it all out, and then he'll slowly inject them back somewhere in one of his executive orders if he wants to use it, right? The cryptocurrency office. He rescinded the establishment of the new office to foster the city's crypto industry. And why did that happen? Because Donald Trump and the Trump administration is big into crypto, right? So he was getting on board with them. Please, Marlon, this could be an entire episode for you, because I know this is his wheelhouse, but it is what it is. And then, you have anything on that one? Because, I mean, listen, it's just, again,
I think what he's trying to do is make the stock go down, and then he's going to buy it.
Right. And in the horse and carriage industry, one, right? So they were trying to phase out the horse and carriage industry.
Yeah. I mean, I know mounted units gone there. We used to do inspections of the horse carriages where they would keep the horses, because people would complain that they were inhumane and they were nasty to the horse. And most of the time, the inspections, there was nothing found. I do think it's a nice thing for people that come to the city. And, if you're a tourist and you get a little, a taste of old New York, as Kramer would say, I don't think it's a bad thing. But should it be regulated? Maybe a little bit more regulated. Maybe it should be more thing. But I don't know if that need, maybe he likes horses. I don't know. So that I don't have a problem with that one, really.
Yeah. What he said was he wants to work with the unions. The horse and carriage people have their own union.
Yeah. All right.
So,
he could have cherry picked what he wanted to get rid of too. He didn't have to blanket it, but see, I think he blankets it. It's easier, but it's also an excuse. Now he blankets it because Eric Adams was corrupt. Yeah, he was corrupt. We absolutely 100% know that. But then you might as well get rid of every executive order that he ever wrote because he was corrupt from the beginning. He wasn't corrupt the day after he got, you know.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree. And then, it just says, the context is, Mamdani stated the revocations reflected public distrust, like I said, following Adams' indictment, aiming to undo actions taken during that period. The moves reversed significant pro-Israel policies, drawing criticism from the Jewish groups, but aligning with Mamdani's long-standing progressive stances, as reported by the New York Times. And one thing, he did not disband that came up that he kept in his executive order is the Office to Combat Anti-Semitism. So, he's staying with that, saying that, there's no room for anti-Semitism, but let's make sure that we use the right definition so that I can still have my beliefs and say what I want to say and not be anti-Semitic as per the definition of the Holocaust remembrance. So that's a quick breakdown of the 9 executive orders that were done. So he's coming out swinging. Then he didn't
write any either, did he? Right? We don't know of any ones that he wrote.
Yeah, executive order number 2.
But those 2 to get rid of these, right?
No, executive order number 2.
So one was to get rid of these. And
one revokes all executive orders after September 24th, 2024.
Right.
And then executive order number 2 is where he lays out basically his administration.
Oh, right. That's with all his people. Yeah, I got you.
Right. So,
but I mean, he didn't do any good executive orders to help the citizens of New York.
I don't.
Right.
I don't expect anytime soon.
No.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I was just hoping, but yeah, no, he got some really good new position. These are all new positions from what I read. Is that correct? Or
I'm sorry.
Are these all new positions or are these?
Well, no, not necessarily. We'll get into some of his appointments next, but this is the one where. This is May executive order. This is the one where he says that all of these people in Section D, and I didn't chop it out, so it's not as clear and tough to read on the phones, because it's tough for me to read on the computer. But it says he's going to supervise and coordinate the office of everybody here is going to fall under the first deputy mayor, and this is where all the backlash came. That
right.
Commissioner Tisch was being demoted and everything else, the back and forth with that, because instead of a direct report to the mayor, that the following people are going to direct report to the first deputy mayor, right? Who is who? He's a retread from de Blasio. We'll get into that in a minute, right? Supervise and coordinate the Office of the Management and Budget, the New York City Police Department, right? The Office of Labor Relations, the public schools, the School Construction Authority, this CUNY Construction Fund, corrections, MOCJ, which is the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, including the Office for Prevention of Hate Crimes, and the Office of Preventing Gun Violence, and the Office of Special Enforcement, Department of Finance, Department of Probation, blah, 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 blah. Everybody reports basically to the first deputy commissioner, giving him a layer of insulation. So this is where the whole firestorm, his first real pushback from the mainstream media was, because it all started coming out. Oh, did Tisch get demoted? That was the big thing. Did Commissioner Tisch get demoted? Now she doesn't report to the police commissioner, right? So,
putting the Office of Management and Budget, that's still in effect. That is executive order number 2. So putting the management and budget underneath the deputy mayor, that limits things that the police department can purchase, buy, the funding that they get, what they do with the funding. So to me, that's almost a type of defunding the police. You're starting to control the money that you give the police department that's used for things. Okay, so purchase of vehicles, weapons, all of those things. When you talk about it, right? Overtime, all of these things, to me, is a play on a way to whether she reports to him or not. If they take control of the Office of Management and Budget and that person has to report or she has to report to them because of that particular unit within the police department, I think it's a defund. That's what
No,
I
I
think.
think the management budget is the city's management budget, not the police department. Just the police commissioner, the police department has to report directly to
them.
the first deputy mayor. But
Yeah.
I think I already took it down. I'm sorry. Let me bring it back up. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say,
I'll bring it back up real quick.
either way, it's a control of the money then of what's going to happen to how much is going to be given down to the police department and everything. And then if it's citywide, if it's Office of Management and Budget to there, it says the police department though, right?
Right, but no, it says the Office of Management Budget because OMB is who we get our budget from. The police department gets their budget from OMB. I mean, we have our own management and budget department in the police department, but but we deal with the Office of Management and Budget because I used to deal with the Office of Management and Budget when I was a candidate assessment because they're the ones that gave us the budget,
how many people,
and the number of how many people we were going to hire at the next.
Right. I think TC says it's called the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget. So I stand corrected.
Right. So it's the Mayor's office. We have our own management and budget office in the police department, which I mean ultimately is we have to answer to the city. So we're still answering to the overhead management and budget at City Hall, who's now who always answered to the first deputy mayor. I mean that's that. But we saw in the last administration, how the mayor completely micromanaged the police department.
Yeah,
all his cronies, and we won't even get into that whole, the whole, deputy mayor for public safety, assistant deputy mayor for public safety, and everybody else that everybody had to answer to. But now, so a firestorm hits, right? And everybody's like, "Oh, did Commissioner Tisch get demoted and everything else?" And so, the mayor gets questioned at a press conference on a separate event. So let's turn up your volume a little bit. Hear what the question was and what his answer was once it came out that did Commissioner Tisch get demoted?
Reporting from Ken Klippenstein, who said that in your second executive order, your restructuring of your office indicated that you were not going to meet with Commissioner Tisch every day and said she was going to report to a deputy mayor, and that sort of suggested that you had downgraded her. Can you speak to that restructuring at all and lend some clarity there?
I am in constant communication with Commissioner Tisch, whether it be today or any other day. And the commissioner within the structure of our City Hall will be reporting to our first deputy mayor, Dean Foulahan. That, however, does not preclude conversations from taking place with me. And at the heart of that is because of the fact that public safety is the cornerstone of our affordability agenda. And today is also an announcement of that public safety and delivering it to you.
So was that a downgrade, yes or no?
That was just a reflection of the structure of City Hall.
Thank you.
So he didn't say it wasn't a downgrade.
No.
At that stage, he didn't say it wasn't a downgrade. He said that's the structure of this City Hall. And that's where he was leaving it at. And I
have a whole different theory on that one.
Yeah.
This is my theory, and it's only a theory.
Hey, listen, it's your perspective, right? This is the executive perspective. This is your perspective, so go for it.
So she's there for, John and Eric, Marlon. We've all spoken about her tenure. How long will it be into the new administration? Most of us say, 3 to 6 months. Some say less. I say that she's doing things. Mamdani says, I'm not happy with her. So who does he have? He has the deputy mayor now say to her, you're really not working out. I'm not happy with your work. And then she says, well, what do you want me to do? She goes, well, we're going to ask you to resign. I'm asking you to resign. You report directly to me. According to the executive order, I want you to resign. She goes, no, I report to Mayor Mamdani. No. According to the executive order, you report to me and you're not working out. So she says, okay, I got to resign. Mamdani says, was it my decision as mayor? It was not my decision, but I trust my deputy mayor and he made that decision and I'm going to stick with that and I'm happy with that. And I'll be looking now for a new police commissioner because Easton Abbasi is now available because he's out of his contract in Paterson, New Jersey. I don't think he'll say that, but that's what I think. That's how I spin it.
I know what you're saying, but the first deputy mayor, even though she reports to him, he can't fire her. He can recommend to the mayor, but the mayor's the one that can.
But if she reports directly to him, he can be as we've seen in the past administrations, who's the fall guy?
Yeah.
Well, I was the mayor. I didn't get rid of her. She reported to my deputy mayor, and he didn't. He had conflicts, and she wasn't doing things they said. So I'm sorry. I have to support my deputy mayor. Goodbye. Jessica Tisch, thank you for your service. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how long she's going to last because I don't know because I'm going to show a brief clip in a second of a very brief clip of yesterday's press conference. I mean, if you want a good, a breakdown of the press conference, go back and watch today's, New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast with John and Eric. They spent the majority of their show today piecemealing, playing a piece, breaking it down, the whole press conference that she had. And at one point, she did talk about the gang database and how important it is. Whereas Mamdani is against the gang database and wants to, do away with it. So that
Strike
was
one.
That was the first. Yeah, that was the first public swipe. But yeah, go back and watch today's show, and you'll see a good breakdown of that whole.
Make sure you have a bottle of water with you because you're gonna get thirsty just watching her.
Oh yeah. She had. She's usually a very confident speaker. And she did seem, I know, listen, it's a new boss, it's everything else, but she didn't seem her normal, completely confident self in that. And listen, maybe she was under the weather. I don't know. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. We'll see. We'll see how it goes moving forward. But she was in the press conference with him and Holchel, and she did say that. She stuck up. Good for her. She stuck up for the gang database, because we've all talked about how the importance of the gang database and how it's a positive thing, and it's being spun by the city council and the pundits to be victimizing people of color when there's absolutely nothing that is acted upon criminally towards anybody in that database. It's used to, foreshadow retaliation and help in investigations with violence and things like that and takedowns. But, that was the first time she went back at him a bit. So, but because of this firestorm, right? Because there was the back and forth and the public was going at him and the reporters were asking him all these questions, he backed off, instead of saying, hey, listen, there's nothing that precludes us from talking. We talk all the time. But the day-to-day operations are going to be through the first deputy mayor, which for the minutia is fine, but you still need to have that direct report with your police commissioner. Public safety is the number one concern for the city. So to take her and knock her down a peg, was a bit of a swipe, right? But he backed off and he clarified, she reports directly to me. Right? Because he was just getting inundated. And again, it's a learning curve for him, And I think this was the first time that he realized that I can't just say and do anything I want, and because I'm the mayor, there's going to be no pushback on it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he just did it to whether or not she does have that direct access. I don't know, but
Well,
what I can say is that he did that because he was getting pushback and he just wanted to appease the media at this point. But I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to give it. If you watch the end of that press conference, she bolted off the podium and left him and Governor Hochul standing there. Like I've never seen that before. Usually at the end of even when you're at Comstat, right? At the end of the presentation, you walk off with the group you're there, right? You just don't exit stage right. And that's what she seemed to do to me. You know, she ran away.
I didn't
And
know this, to be honest.
if anybody gets a chance, look at the last part of that interview because she bolts off. And then was she nervous? You said I've been in executive conferences or that are called our all out or what are they all in or something? All in, I think they're called.
Yeah, the all in.
Or every executive from the NYPD goes to the police academies and listens to 8 hours of pure bullshit. But anyway, that being said, she's done presentations there and she's always been a calm demeanor, very good speaker. This is the first time I've seen her a little bit tainted where she didn't know whether she was going on. Some people in the chat this morning said that maybe she was nervous about interviewing for a job with Hochul. Maybe she's going to go work in Albany. Other people.
I heard that. Yes, that was the first time I heard that. It was yesterday, and
I mean, it could be, but maybe she was like you said earlier. Maybe she was just nervous the first time in front of Mamdani. I don't know why.
Delray said maybe she had to take a douche.
Maybe. I don't know if all that water. Maybe she needed to hydrate, and so she can help her a little bit. But I don't know.
But this is what she says. This is what she says in that interview. Because she kind of like took a swipe at the media a little bit,
I also want to thank Mayor Mamdani, to whom I report directly and with whom I am developing a close and productive working relationship. I look forward to working with him to continue to drive down crime in 2026.
So she made it clear that she reports directly to him.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hey, listen, David B says, God forbid she needed a bottle of water, the horror. That's not the point. What the point is the way she asked for the bottle of water. She just demanded it from somebody. Give me a bottle of water. And if you're feeling, I've done presentations at not the police academy, at 1PP in the auditorium, at the Shields meetings and everything else. If you think you should have a bottle of water there. All right. Be prepared.
Yeah. That was a little strange. And I think somebody's going to catch hell for that. To be honest with you, I think somebody, especially the way she can be, I think somebody's going to catch hell that there wasn't, those daises, those little podiums, they have a shelf.
Yeah.
They have a shelf underneath. There's no reason why there shouldn't have been a bottle of water, the small bottles or something there in preparation. You're up there, you're going to be speaking a lot. I saw somebody had asked on the Day Show today, and they didn't get a chance because they were very busy. They didn't get a chance to answer it, I don't think. Why wasn't there a corresponding PowerPoint going on with when she was going through all the stats? There was. There's two screens behind that podium on the sides. It just wasn't incorporated into the live stream. But there was definitely a PowerPoint going along with it with the stats. So, but yeah, I don't know why. I always had, whenever I was doing that, even when you went to Comstat, they put all those little bottles of water, right? It was the borough, whatever borough was up, it was their responsibility to supply the water and the snacks, right? The bagels, the muffins, whatever, granola bars, and the water. And they would go out, and the Comstat people would take a case of the water and would put out a bottle of water in front of each person's placard, for whatever borough it was. And you would make sure, if you were presenting, that you had a couple of bottles of water, because you're going to get dry. Your nerves are there. No matter how good you are, no matter how good you're doing in crime, no matter what you're doing, you're going to get nervous. Your mouth's going to get a little bit dry. So you always go up there with a bottle of water. You always have a bottle of water at the podium.
You know what else? It buys you time. Watch.
I got water
Ron,
right here. Yeah, here we go.
Ron, listen, Ron, I don't know the answer to this next question that McCarthy's asking me. Could you please answer it? Thank you.
You got this one, Pete. Answer this one for me. Yeah, but that was a little strange, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not gonna knock the way she asked. You know, she said, "Could somebody get me a bottle of water," because she was at a point where she really couldn't speak.
Just say please, though. Like Stephen S. says, slave, water, bring me a bottle of water. That's what it sounded like. Somebody get me a bottle of water.
And then she was like, "Here you go, Chief."
Yeah.
Like, why would she put it? Now, why doesn't she put it on the shelf instead of giving it to LePetri?
Exactly. I don't know.
That was a little weird, but you know, listen, you're up there. You're just like, you're kind of, you know, it's a live news conference, and you're at a complete standstill where you can't speak further. It's like, you know, listen, I need some water. Somebody get me some water quick. You know.
Listen, I'm
not gonna knock her for that one.
I got to.
I'll knock her for not being prepared as the police commissioner and somebody.
I'm just saying, say please, though. That's all.
Yeah, no, always. Yeah.
And I'm glad that, and I like Mike LePetri, but I'm sorry that to become the chief of the department, there's a water bottle test, and he passed, but I didn't know there was one. But so I'm just saying.
Germ-free fusion, saying we're reading way too much into things. I kind of agree. I think we're looking too much into the water thing, to be honest. I
got it. Because you know why? I guess it's an aberration, right? You know, you never see her like that before. So if now you're talking the first day that she's there with Mamdani and she's got the governor of the state. To me, that all right, you should maybe, and she's always been so well prepared. Like if you think about what she said at Officer Islam's funeral, right? Her eulogy there. I mean, to me, I was taken back. Remember? I don't if you remember. So TC, he's the chief of hydration. That's hilarious.
Listen, germ-free. I agree with you. I think we are overanalyzing this. I think we're looking way too deep into this. You know, listen, she needed water. She was, and to me, you know, listen. Yes, she should have said, "Please, could somebody please get me?" But listen, again, it's to me, you know, you're hyper focused. The cameras are live on you. Your new mayor's next to you. The governor's next to you. You know, whether she wants to be on the ticket with her in the future, I don't know. Whatever people were talking about, you know, it's a possibility, right? Because we always said that, you know, she's doing this for free. She's doing it for $1. She's not doing it for the money. She's doing it for the love of the city and the community service, whatever the case may be. Does she want to move up? Now she's the police commissioner. She's kind of hit the pinnacle of being, without being in City Hall, she's kind of hit the pinnacle of city service by being the New York City Police Commissioner. You know, that and the fire commissioner are the two most prestigious commissioner positions, I believe. Yeah, I just think that, you know, you're up there and it happens. I need water quick, you know. So I don't know. I think
you look at
David B is saying, you know, H2O gate. All right.
Yeah, it could be. But also 92 Charlie saying maybe she wasn't feeling well.
I said that earlier.
There were signs later on too. She was literally holding on to the side of the podium. Her hand was like Hunter's saying right there. Her hand definitely was trembling. So there was something awry, whether it was nervousness or not. But I'm just saying. So you know, it's not expected. You know, you expect you look at the previous police commissioners. I mean, you bring up Ray Kelly all the time. I've never seen any type of that. He was straight up. You know, that's it. He was
also a Marine Corps colonel. He knows how to stand at a podium for Eric.
She's been doing it for years, though.
Yeah, but you know, Eric did bring up a point, you know, this morning that when you're standing for a long period of time, if you lock your legs out, you could get a little faint. And that, to be honest, looked like she was getting a little faint because she was holding on when Mamdani was speaking, holding on to the side of the podium. So. That's what Charlie Tisch just went admin sick. All right, let's move on from Watergate. But Yeah. All right. So, but on a serious note, though, this non-direct, what's the implications basically of Tisch not having that one-on-one meeting every day, right? Whoop. What happened? Oh, I didn't take that video down. See, I'm slacking. There we go. Right? So it comes out that he's ended the direct mayoral daily briefings from the commissioner causing serious security concerns for the city, reversing the practice that's been around since 9/11. So that is an issue, I think, if she's not going to be giving him his daily briefings, because she's getting from our intel division, she's getting briefed, and then she in turn briefs the police commissioner, right? Because as we know, as of right now, and I don't know where it's going to come with him pushing back on the administration, the Trump administration, on how quickly his federal security screening and access is going to come in. But, Eric Adams lost his also for a while, right?
There's no guarantee he's going to get it, right?
I don't even know. I don't know, because it kind of like people stopped talking about it. I don't know if he ever got it back after the indictment was nullified. I don't know if he got it back, but we know that he lost his security clearance when he lost his phones. They took away his security clearance also. So you're getting briefed by the police commissioner. I don't know. Is she now limited in what she can even brief him on?
Absolutely. I had security clearance. I had secret clearance. So there's three types of clearances: confidential, secret, top secret. So, I mean, you're talking about secret clearance. It's cause serious damage to national security. So if she can't tell him anything that, they talk about like a skiff, right, where you go into a secured room and it's all. And I've been in those too with Galati and everybody else, but you got to remember there's information that he is not privy to then, because he does not have that clearance, and it would violate her clearance. And I don't know if she also could be criminally charged, but she cannot tell him things of the you can tell people of the lesser clearance information, but you cannot tell people of no clearance. So so if you have somebody that has top secret clearance, they can tell people with secret clearance, but not the same information. They can delve it down a little bit. But if you don't have any clearance, you're not entitled to any of that information. So I don't know if he doesn't get it, then that could be a problem. We spoke about being a problem when Adams didn't have it. You're talking about securing a city, a major metropolis with 8.5 million people, and more so when there's commuters and everybody else inside, and you don't have the clearance to understand. How do you make those informed decisions on deployment, on preventiveness? I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So I don't know.
We could send Julio Tavares Vega over to the city. He had Dunkin' Donuts clearance,
and Julio's a good man. I know him, so he would do good there.
But yeah, let's listen to when he was questioned about that, and this all came out because he said he was briefed on the Maduro, right?
We all were. We read the newspapers,
right?
Newsmax briefed me in the morning,
right? Exactly, and he had to step back and say, "Well, I was briefed by my staff."
Yeah, okay.
Who has clearance? His staff has clearance.
Yeah, and they also probably watch Newsmax.
Yeah. We all have X, right? So let's hear this one.
Has anyone from a federal agency reached out to you or members of your team to begin the vetting to get federal security clearance?
That briefing, yes, was conducted by my team, and the question of federal security clearance is one that's ongoing.
So do you have it right now?
No, not as yet.
So
Yeah.
it's ongoing. The question of him getting the federal clearance is ongoing. And
Yeah.
again, I don't know. Normally, once he was mayor-elect, that process would begin so that when he comes in and he could be briefed prior to even coming in. Like the
I would
president.
hope,
The
right?
president gets briefed. Once they're president-elect, they get a daily briefing like the president does so that they're aware of current events and everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean the certification, I know the recertification was less. It took me maybe a month to get recertified, but the first time I remember it took a little while because you're literally putting down everything about your life, all your family members, your financial information, everything. So it takes a lot. There's a whole packet that you have to put in. For me, I had to submit it to Homeland Security. So it doesn't take right away, but obviously somebody of political stature like the mayor or the president, yeah, that can be expedited, right? So yeah, I would have thought he would have had it already. Like you said, it would have made more sense to have it right away, so that got you taken over January 1st, right, at 001 hours. So guess what? Anything could happen at that time, right? So
yeah. So all right, we're an hour and 41 minutes. We have 439 people on all the different platforms. Again, if you're watching us on anything but YouTube, and you want to get involved in the interactive chat, and you can see what everybody else is chatting about, we love to engage with our chat. Please just go over to our YouTube to Finest Unfiltered and the Executive Perspective and jump in. We'd love to have you in the chat on YouTube, and yeah, so it's really important, and you can also follow us on X at Exec Perspective. So you can do that to follow the show. It's open to DM us if you want to DM us or send any questions for the later portion when we do the executive ask an executive portion. It's the executive perspective at gmail.com. And like I said, our DMs are open at the exec perspective on X. So and always, of course, make sure you go over and check out thefinestunfiltered.com, the new website that was put up. So we appreciate it. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. Get that algorithm going. But getting back to the daily briefing, it's important because you have to be kept up to speed, right? Especially in today's day and age, because you never know what's going on. And the New York City Police Department Counterterrorism Division is really good at what they do. And just to before we move on, Rob, anything else on Mamdani and the first 7 days and the back and forth with this Tisch?
I think he has a learning curve,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he necessarily needed to come out swinging so tough. You could like I always go back to when I first went to emergency service unit. I knew nothing about it. I knew the guys and girls there were great, and they always did a great job. But I wasn't going to be one to change anything or change policy or change anything that they did. I didn't have the knowledge to do that. So what I did is I worked there for a while. I observed, and then you make changes. He didn't need to make the changes right away. He needed to observe and things, and see what's going on. And then for him to say, I was briefed on it, which was a play on words,
Yep.
right? And then he just said the other day he was briefed on Venezuela. Listen, big guy, he's the mayor of the city of New York. You're not the mayor for the world. I don't care if you were briefed on Venezuela. All right. But stick to your playing field. All right. I didn't tell counterterrorism, hey, you need to investigate this. You need to do that. No, you play in your field, right? When you were the CO of the 110, you didn't tell the 4-7, hey, you guys really have a robbery problem and you should really be doing this, right? No, right? So I mean I think he better learn right away, and he better come to terms, who he is and who the people think he is. So
Yeah.
That's all. I just,
I
know.
think we'll touch on it at the end, but it's another thing is, he called up and spoke with President Trump to voice his opposition to the
Yeah.
Maduro capture. So,
What?
like you said, yeah. You don't think he's in MCU for a reason?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. But to get back to one of the reasons it's really important, let's highlight, I think, a positive coming into the new year, right? Just as the year was closing out, the New York City Police Department, we always talk about, we talk about, we analyze things that go bad and what could be done better. And it's good to also have the ability to sometimes highlight some really good and positive things. And the NYPD Intelligence Division, specifically the Cybersecurity Unit, they thwarted an ISIS related attack, right? It would have happened in North Carolina, but they were monitoring chatter, which is what they do, their cybersecurity, and they identified this ISIS-inspired, self-radicalized individual in North Carolina who was plotting to go to a fast food restaurant and a store and other places with hammers and knives and commit a terrorist act and kill as many people. And then, his end goal was to die as a martyr in, suicide by cop. But they were able to identify him. They were able to engage him. The NYPD undercover operatives in the cybersecurity unit were able to engage him. He laid out his plan. Then they forwarded the information to the FBI, who took it and ran with it. So let's just look real quick at the assessment and timeline, right? On December 12th, this is just 3 weeks ago, he began communicating with the undercover law enforcement officer, right, posing as an ISIS member. Now, they don't say that this is an NYPD member, but it was an NYPD member. He sent images of 2 hammers and knives to this member, consistent with ISIS propaganda promoting knife attacks in Western countries, right? So 6 days after the initial contact, they notify the FBI in Charlotte on the social media posts. And on the 19th, he pledged bayat, loyalty to ISIS via voice recording, right? On the 29th, the feds did a search warrant executed at Stuyvesant's residence. Stuyvesant's name recovered hammers, butcher's knives, tactical vests, gloves, and systematic attack preparations. Handwritten documents titled New Year's Eve Attack 2026, detailing the operational plans. Included specific locations listed in Mint Hill, North Carolina. Not sure exactly where that is. He wanted to acquire firearms, but hadn't. He wanted 20 to 21 victims, very specific, right? And then, like I said, he wanted to die, and he was arrested without incident. The interesting thing about this also, right, is that he had been identified back in 2022 when he was 14 years old, right? He was contacted, a suspected ISIS member in Europe, and received instructions to dress in black and commit hammer attacks like the one he was going to do. But his grandfather intervened, prevented an attack, and the feds didn't charge him. They sent him I was reading up on it. They actually tried to get him committed, but in North Carolina, they wouldn't commit him. And so he went for mental health treatment. So kudos to the NYPD cybersecurity team for thwarting this legitimate attack. So I just think kudos goes out to them. What are your thoughts on
I go in a different direction. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think it was initially, yes, good observation by our cyber security and our intel doing that. I look at it and I see that he, posted things. He previously had some sort of mental issues when he was 14. I think his father initially stopped the attack. He tried to attack somebody, I think, with a hammer or something outside his home. But then I look at the timeline, and what I'm concerned about is they had all this intel, they had all the information, but the arrest isn't made till the December 31st, which is New Year's Eve. I mean, if you have all of this and you're trying to thwart an attack on a New Year's Eve celebration, why do we wait till December 31st? That's New Year's Eve. What if he had eluded them and already made it his way up to New York? I mean, they're saying he's under surveillance, but we all know surveillance isn't always 100%. There's ways to elude surveillance. And then I also I'm concerned about the mental status of the individual, because I know for a fact, and I know guys that were in JTTF, I know guys that were Intel. A lot of times, the FBI would not bait, but they would try to push people, well, sometimes of mental illnesses, to say things and do things. And sometimes those people, their mental acuity wasn't as good, and they would agree to it and stuff like that. And I'm not saying this happened in this case, but but my main concern is, if you have an arrest that's going to be executed on the 31st of December, when he was going to execute his attack, I just think there should have been a little bit more precautionary. A couple days before, don't let that person, elude the police and continue with the attack. And we know had that happened, had that person got up here, yeah, it probably would have been ugly. I mean, I think he was looking to get suicide by cop
Right.
at the end, but I mean, overall they did a good job. My only concern is the what they fed him and pushed him. If they didn't push him to that, and the other thing is, why wasn't the arrest made earlier? And I just think, if it was me, I would have said I want the arrest on the 29th, because I don't want to give him the opportunity. We already have all this information.
Yeah.
I have the text messages, the back and forth. I have the pictures. I have the motive, and we have the means. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Arrest.
I think that's on the feds, because we handed it off to the NYPD.
I'm not saying I'm not blaming the
Yeah.
NYPD on this.
Yeah, no, I'm saying phenomenal job by the NYPD to
Right.
be doing this, to capture this, to link up with this guy, and
Yeah.
to get him to lay out his plan, and they got enough for PC, like you're saying, and they handed it off to the feds. So then it goes to the
Absolutely.
Joint Terrorism Task Force in North Carolina, who, according to what I read, surveilled him 24 hours for 5 days, and on the 29th they executed the search warrant. So from the 29th to the 31st, I don't know where he was.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think when you're getting the information that the NYPD compiled, you had enough to snatch him
Right.
up and then
Yeah.
execute the search warrant.
Absolutely. How many more search warrants are executed after an arrest? Right. So
Right.
I mean,
No, but I think that's on the feds' end, and
I wasn't blaming the NYPD. If they're out there monitoring like that, I think that's a good thing, because that's what you want. That's what you pay for.
yeah. Another recent interesting thing that popped up online and then got picked up by the paper, which kind of can get tied into threat assessment, right? How about this? Box of NYPD uniforms found abandoned near a Brooklyn cemetery.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at what popped up online, and then we'll talk about it. So, I mean, I'll bring it back up. And just, I mean, they're not saying they're not legitimate uniforms. What are your thoughts on this? Very,
To me,
extreme.
that's extremely disturbing.
Yeah.
You know, even when I left the police department, any uniforms that I had, I would always, even when I got all new shirts, I would always cut the patch off. I would always, you know, if I was going to discard a shirt, I would never discard it with the patch on it. And I just did that as saying, well, if I throw it in the garbage and somebody picks it up, they could be wearing a shirt and walking around with the patch on it and be thought to be a police officer. More concerning for me now is with, you know, all these ideas of terrorism and everything else. People, and you could buy uniforms on eBay and everything else. It's ridiculous. I mean, there should be some legal standing, and there should be this should definitely be stopped. I mean, years ago when I used to go in the equipment section, you would have to show your identification card before you're even able to purchase any uniforms, which I felt was pretty comforting, because then you knew people, bad guys, couldn't come in and get your uniform. But seeing this is, if these uniforms are given out and there's people that are going to do harm, especially New Year's Eve, right? We don't check everybody that comes into the frozen zone and everything else, right? Sometimes they'll give out a lanyard with an particular identification. I think they used to do it for the U.S. Open, right? The U.S. Open used to have them all the time. But when, you know, at a certain point, especially, you know, with somebody in rank, if you wear an inspector uniform and you walk in there and you're not an inspector, most cops aren't going to say, "Inspector, let me see your ID card. Let me see this." No, and you're going to walk through. And what concerns me, and had always been a concern of mine, was that people put on these uniforms, easily get into a frozen zone, and then commit some sort of terroristic attack. So, I mean, to me, you know, the security of those uniforms is extremely important. And I don't know why they're on the street like that. I don't know if there was some other intent, or there was, you know, somebody just dumped them there, you know, some company or whatever that was delivering them, dumped them. But that to me is very, very, very problematic, because, again, especially when, and here's the other thing, with New Year's Eve, how many times I've worked it, probably 23 of my last 23 years with the Special Operations Division. And what do you have there? You have a lot of brand new police officers, because they want to give the senior guys off, and these guys just got out of the academy. So, hey, let's bring all the girls and guys down here and post them. And you know what? The good thing about them is they stay on the post all night. They don't leave the post. But if they see somebody else walk by with a uniform, they're not going to question it. And I'll caveat one back to 9/11. Steve Hayden was a member of the Emergency Service Unit, Truck 7. He was a counter sniper guy. He was also a tactics instructor. One of the best you'll ever meet. He was really good. He taught me a lot of things. Believe me, he's well renowned. And on 9/11, he was down there, and also prior military service. I believe he did time in the Marines, and then he also went out and did time with the United States Army. He sees somebody walking around the frozen zone, ground zero. We're still days into it, and he sees somebody that wears some sort of military uniform, but the military uniform didn't make sense. So he stopped the guy and he questions him. And you know what? That guy was never in the military. He was not even supposed to be in there, but he got all the way in there because of his uniform. And that's why, and Steve was smart enough to see the guy, and they ended up making the arrest and everything else. So kudos to Steve Hayden, a great guy in emergency service unit. And I think he's doing business elsewhere now. So if you have run across his name, I highly recommend him. But that is why it scares me. That's why it scares me to death, So.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The reason I took my camera off for a minute was I went over to the top of my dresser, just like you said.
Yeah.
When I retired and I got rid of all my uniform shirts and my jackets, I ripped off all my patches.
Yeah.
Kept all my patches for myself. took all the stuff off, just like you just said. So that's why I took myself off the camera for a second so I can run over there. That's exactly. I agree with you 100%. It's a security issue. You don't want them getting into the hands of the wrong people. Even though, yeah, can you buy them everywhere? Can you buy a hat in Times Square with a patch and rip it off and make your own uniform or whatever? But it'll stand out a little bit more than if you have the legitimate uniform shirt. If I just throw my white shirt in the garbage, you know, like when I graduated the academy, we had a bonfire at the beach. We burned all our gray shirts and everything else, you know? And it was interesting, especially since one of my friends, we were Gun and Shield Day, we're walking up, and we got up to him. And he's like, "Go see 523."
Oh boy.
Yeah, a little domestic had him held over in the academy, and then he had to scramble. Who still got shirts? He was at the bonfire because it was we reported in our blue shirts the next day.
Right.
Out of blue shirts the next day, instead of the gray shirts. So the night before had a bonfire. So I guess after the bonfire, he went home and had a little bit of another fire.
Oh, jeez.
There was an off-duty incident, and they held his gun. I got my gun. He was next in line, and they're like, "Go to 523." Next thing you know, he's like, "Who still has gray shirts that size I can try?" Because he had to stay in the academy in his gray shirts because he didn't get the gun.
Oh man.
But
terrible.
I agree with you 100%. It's a complete issue. It's a complete concern, and I don't know. And I haven't heard or seen a follow-up. And I meant to ask John and Eric because they get a lot of good intel. People, reach out to them with a lot of stuff to see if they had heard anything. I don't know if Marlon, I know Marlon's in the background back there. But I don't know, Marlon, if you've heard anything, or if anybody else has heard anything. There's been no follow-up in the paper or anything else about this, like where they came from or what they think they're from or anything. It's perplexing to me because those are boxes of uniforms. They're not new. They're not new in the plastic. When you go and get a new jacket or a new shirt or whatever, they're folded into plastic. Even the jackets are, in plastic. And so that's not like it was a shipment that got somehow lost or whatever the case may be from a buff store or whatever the case may be, So yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's very concerning. And if anybody knows anything, throw it in the chat. If not, we'll try and find out and get back to you next week. Because I'm interested in if anybody, knows a follow up on it. Because it's that was I saw that, and then you sent it to me, and I'm like, yeah, I agree. It's very, very interesting. Anything else you want on that one?
No, I would ask that anybody that is, in law enforcement, and it doesn't have to be in NYPD, anywhere else, when you did, like, I think Ron came up with a great idea. Burn them, man. Have a nice little bonfire. If you, whatever you're going to do, but, cut them up or do anything, but, don't leave it to chance that somebody else can get that. And I also say that if you suspect somebody, because you'll see a lot of stuff on Instagram and YouTube and everything else, and there's people pretending to be police officers, and usually you can always depict the uniform, like they're missing something or something's not right. But if you're ever at a detail or at a crime scene and something doesn't look right, ask the questions, ask for the person's police ID, ask them what their tax number is, which is their tax identification number for the department. Ask them what a UF-28 is. I'm not going to say what it is now, but ask them the question.
I think we already gave that one up.
Yeah, I think we all have. I said, but I was never insulted when somebody said, "Hey, can I see your identification card?" And if you're a supervisor and you're insulted because somebody asked you for an ID card, well, then you're an idiot. Now, that being said, I wouldn't ask Chief LaPetri for his ID card, or I wouldn't ask Jessica Tisch. But hey, everybody else, I might ask.
You want a quick laugh on that one? I worked with a guy in the 7-0, and later in my career, after 9/11, I was a sergeant, and we were down doing headquarters security, and Bernie Carrick was the police commissioner, and so it was mandatory. Any vehicle coming into headquarters, you had to ask for everyone's ID card. We were being very strict, in those zones. This is when we're still working on the pile and everything else, so we would assign different things. So this detective, who was in narcotics at the time, I'm almost positive he was narcotics at the time, right? He stops Kerrick coming in, and he says, "I need to see everyone's ID card." And then his details, like, it's the commissioner. He goes, "I'm sorry, my orders are that I have to see everyone's ID card." And they're like, "Guy, are you kidding me? It's the police commissioner." He's like, "I'm sorry, my orders are everybody. I have to see everybody's ID." Kerrick is like, "Well, here," shows him, "Sorry, I'm sorry. Thank you very much." 20 minutes later, 10-2 headquarters security, he gets escorted up to the 14th floor to the police commissioner's office. He thinks he's done. Kerrick brings him in, says, "I just had them run you. I looked everything up. You've had a great career." He goes, "I think what you did was admirable. You followed your directions, you followed your orders, and you didn't just let us pass through." He goes, "How would you like to be on my detail?" Wound up taking him onto his detail, and he retired a first grader.
That's nice. Yeah.
You know?
See? Yeah.
So, just like you said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
It's not who you know, who knows you.
There you go. Joe Fox. Right? All right. And QCB says, unless you're an unknown assistant commissioner and you don't recognize him, then you get transferred to Staten Island.
Then
you get transferred to Staten Island.
Now he's in the squad now. So.
And Julio, are you asking or are you validating what I'm saying? You know who I'm talking about. I don't want to say his name.
That's funny.
He made him show his ID card. So, all right. We are 2 hours and 7 minutes in. Well, I'm gone.
Where'd you go?
Looks like my camera was unplugged. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I just see a circle there. So maybe I'm guessing maybe Commissioner Kerrick just jumped in. Maybe
there you go. I don't know. I just got camera went offline for some reason.
Well, Julio says he's validating you. So
okay. Yep. So yeah, that's 100% true story. I was down there. But you want to touch on those videos that we put off the last couple of weeks, or you want to?
Yeah, you want to maybe do one or two, and then we could go to executive. What was it? Ask this if I can't even say it. Blah blah.
Ask an executive.
There you go.
I don't know. Is my camera darker now? I don't know what happened.
Well, yeah, it's a different. It looks like a different view, but.
All right, I'll try and work on that when I'm playing the video. All right, so what Rob and I are talking about is that for the last few shows, we've had a couple of videos that were circulating and put out by the NYPD, highlighting some good work from the rank and file, and it just because topics have come up, the conversations were long. Shockingly, I might have been a little long-winded. No. We haven't been able to play them. So let's get into I got the rooftop, the harbor, and the SODGLA. Which one you want to throw in there?
You have the EDP one where we're up. You have on the roof.
Up on the roof. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Let's take a look at this and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
How you doing, brother? What's going on? Step down.
Don't come next to me, please.
Tell me what's going on today.
Nah, man, I'm good. I'm not hurting nobody.
I know, but you're standing up.
I'm not hurting nobody but myself.
How about your baby? He needs you right now. The baby needs you. The baby needs you.
I'm sorry, brother, but I did it for your own safety. Come on.
He was on the ledge.
Yeah.
He grabbed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kudos, man.
Great job to that officer.
Yeah, I mean, he engaged them. He, draw a little bit of confusion. She actually asked a question too. That's good too, because that puts into, two different words. Yeah, I think, like 92 Charlie says, I think it was awesome. Sleepy Joe, same thing. Good work. Absolutely. I think they did a great job. He knew, that he could make the grab, and he took it upon himself to do that. So I think it was really good. I don't see any problems with that. And I truthfully, the guy, if he was going to write up something, I'd give him a medal for that. That's a commendation, man. That's in my opinion. So
Yeah, I mean, he like you said, they engaged him in conversation. They tried to talk to him. They tried to establish some type of rapport with him. I mean, you're a lot more, with ESU, and those guys are all trained in this type of situation where you engage them and you establish some type of rapport. You make it personal. She's asking about the baby, everything else. The fact that he was standing on the air conditioner piece and not the actual ledge, I think
that's
plays a big difference into it.
yeah.
It made it a much safer situation for that officer to jump into. Oh, trying to help us out here. To jump into action. But yeah, like you said, he waited for the right moment, waited for him to be distracted, and just bear hugged him and tackled him back in. So kudos to that officer. And we don't get to highlight enough of that good stuff.
I think Sleepy Joe brings up a great point, though, right? Well, we have new social workers. Will they do the same, right? I mean, he talks about new social worker finals. I don't know. Would they be able to do that? And there was a press conference. I think it was the chief of patrol, Philip Rivera, spoke about. I think they shot somebody with a knife. I think it was a domestic. The father was there, or EDP. They called, the father called, and his statement was, "Yeah, these jobs are very unpredictable, and at any given moment they can change." And then I'm thinking, you just gave the exact reason of why social workers should not be doing that, because they are unpredictable and they can change in a minute. And just like that job in itself, I mean, would the social worker have done the same thing? No, I don't think so. So I think that officer, saw the opportunity and made the grab. And like you said, I would assume that he evaluated the where the individual was, that he wasn't up on the ledge, because then up on the ledge is a little different.
Yeah.
But he evaluated that, that person would have to take another step up, and he figured that the timing was right, that he could move in and grab that guy. And I think he did a great job.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. All right. You want to leave it at that? All right.
Yes,
so
sir.
just before we go over to Asking Executive, obviously we touched on it briefly. Big news in the nation. The capture of Venezuelan dictator Maduro was brought to justice, brought to the United States to stand trial. And, a lot of the Democrats are now, of course, attacking the Trump administration and the DOJ for going in and seizing him and placing him under arrest, because that's what this operation was. This operation was a capture and an arrest. So it was more of a law enforcement thing that was carried out by the DEA and the FBI and the DOJ. And he was captured with his wife and brought back to the United States. So very rarely, if ever in my memory, do I agree with Eric Adams. But Eric Adams had put out a post on this. And he said on January 10th, 2025, the Biden-Harris administration put a $25 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro for information leading to his arrest or conviction. Public safety is not a political game. You don't label someone as a narco dictator one year and then pretend he's no longer a threat the next simply because a different president is in office. That's cynical and irresponsible. Maduro's drugs have killed thousands of Americans, continue to endanger our children. Imagine being the parent of a 2-year-old Nicholas Velez Dominici, who died from fentanyl poisoning in the Bronx daycare, and watching this political theater. America is safer today because Maduro is no longer in power. And then he also posts Biden raising the bounty to $25 million and the DOJ DEA wanted poster. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that bounty actually went up to 50 million from what I remember from Rubio talking about. I think it was an outstanding operation by our military, and in conjunction with the Department of Justice. And I really don't see any problem with it. He was a fugitive of the law here, and we went there and effected the arrest. So what I do see is the people of Venezuela are extremely happy.
Everywhere.
The Venezuelans that live in Florida are ecstatic.
In
the
New
only
York,
people that aren't happy are the demonstrators in New York, walking around with brand new signs saying that they don't agree with it. So
let's take. Funny you should mention that, Rob. Funny you should mention that. Let's take a look at who is demonstrating against the capture of Maduro. I don't see a lot of Venezuelans in there.
No, actually, I think I remember some of them from the George Floyd riots. They look pretty familiar.
Wait, is that no? Oh, it's blood for oil, not BLM. Okay, that's.
I bet you if you took those signs,
It's not a yellow. It's not a yellow and blue flag. Now it's a Cuban and a Nicaraguan flag.
I bet you on the inside of those flags it says BLM. I'm just saying.
And you know what?
Same drums.
Yeah, there's Cowbell Man.
There he is.
Right. So you know where they are today. You know where they are today, right?
Down what, Foley Square, I guess it is.
They're down at Foley Square, and they're demonstrating against ICE. It's the same demonstrators going however often they are just demonstrating for whatever the cause is that they're being funded. These are paid agitators and paid demonstrators. They're demonstrating just for the sake of demonstrating. You go down to the federal building and you have the people that are demonstrating against Maduro's capture and arrest. And who are the counter protesters? Venezuelans.
I know, yeah.
Venezuelans saying how oppressed they were. It's insane. It's insane. Like you said, everywhere you see, the Venezuelans are celebrating this. Now, how the government is going to handle Venezuela and the input of the new government afterwards, there's a lot of questions there. I'll agree. But the fact of them just going in and getting him, nobody should be complaining, because they were all complaining about him when Biden was in office and drugs were killing everybody. So
Yeah, I saw something where they're looking at RICO charges against George Soros because I don't know if they're following the money now, but let's see. But yeah, and that's funny. Like David B says, like one day, and this is a great point. One day they were no kings, and then they were like free the communist dictator that was arrested. The king of Venezuela. So I mean, it's amazing that they can go, and I guess they're pretty flexible, right? Because they could just and I would love to know with a warehouse where they distribute out these fine demonstration, pamphlets and streamers and everything else they're putting out there. They really do a great job of printing them out. Somebody said was Kinko or whatever that pushes it out. Somebody's making a lot of money on this.
Yeah.
Every time there's a different event, they get to print stuff out. I don't know.
We'll see how that shakes out. Like I said, now it's a matter of how are we going to handle the fact that they don't have anybody steering their ship there, and they don't have a government in place, and how that's going to happen. And Trump is saying we are going to control them right now, and Marco Rubio and everybody. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah,
I had heard the vice president, she stepped up now, and she's been appointed as the temporary president of Venezuela, and I think she is a little more lenient towards Trump and those. So I think she's cooperating with him. So hopefully, don't forget Maduro, he lost a duly election. He lost hands out. He stole it. So
yeah. And David's asking if they have a job. That is their job.
Yeah,
they're getting paid.
They're getting overtime. They're better than the police department right now. They're getting overtime. They're going from one demonstration right to the other. So
there you go. That's what Marlon's saying, it right? Protesting, that's their job. They're being paid by billionaires and NGOs with your tax money.
Yeah,
that is a fact. Following the money, like you said, they're following the money now. Finally, which is something that they should have been doing, but they weren't doing under the Biden administration. All right. So we'll see how that shapes up, and it's interesting that we have details, and there's going to be a detail down there every day. So to the officers that are assigned to these details, keep your head on a swivel. Hopefully they have pens set up and keep them in the pens, and hopefully they get good direction from leadership. And we'll see how it all turns out. But I bet you right now, if they went live down at the jail, there's not a lot of protesters, because they're protesting ICE up in Foley Square, like someone posted in the chat earlier.
Yeah, I think it was Mike Freed. Yeah,
guaranteed. If you went live down to the correctional facility, you're not going to have a bunch of protesters. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. So, all right, let's move on. 2 hours, 23 minutes in. Let's go to the segment, Ask an Executive, where you can ask Ron and Rob questions on topic, off topic, and we'll answer questions from the chat. So I know at 1850, at 6:50 p.m. How's that, Rob? 6:50
That's better.
p.m. Sleepy Joe had a question, so let me zip back to that real quick. Sleepy Joe, why does the Station House Security Post always get post changed to something else?
It's a valid point. That happens all the time.
It does happen all the time.
You know what? It shouldn't really. When you think about it, the station house security is very important, especially as having been a desk officer, right? Because they usually stop that EDP, mostly disturbed person, or that kookaburra that came in to start trouble. They usually stop them. You see all these, like I think Eric and John did a great job about those, social media influencers coming right up in your face. Could you imagine if you'd have Social Security? I mean, Social Security. Could you imagine if you'd have?
Not yet. Not for either one of us yet.
You need it too, though. But if you didn't have station house security, and those people just came into the precinct, it would be a nightmare. You have victims there. You have complaint reports being typed up. So, but you know what? Just like Julio saying, it's an available body, and unfortunately, when you have a limited amount of personnel in your command, or somebody makes a collar and you go down a couple sectors, that is the first person that's going to be tapped to be thrown in and backfill. So,
And-
unfortunately, I think if you had enough personnel and you had enough cops working, then you wouldn't eliminate that position. But because I think it's really important. But that's my take on it. I always hated doing it. Always hated taking that guy or gal off of that post. But because it's a little self-serving. But
Yeah, I think, to be honest, also, Rob, unless there was some threats or something going on, I think when we were back in our commands, times were different. We have seen attacks inside of precincts now, where people come in with guns, with knives, through the front door. And so there's no excuse to me at this point to not have a station house security and being vigilant. And when that guy goes on meal, the TS or somebody else has to suit up, and they should be suited up. No pancake holster. They should be vest, gun belt, and ready to rock and roll, because you never know. Not just their station house security on paper, so the borough sees that, or investigation sees you have a station house security on them, and meanwhile they're doing 3 different things. Listen, been there, done that, have had to, finagle certain things. So,
yeah, no, it's very important. And I remember when I was in Manhattan North, there was a guy that came in. I don't think there was station house security, but he came in and got to the 124 room and pulled out a knife, and the officer in the 124 room shot him within the 2-4 precinct. So I mean, you just never know. And then
you had that one where that my housing guys were in the 4-0 with a prisoner, and a guy walked in, and he got shot. And
it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Reed is asking, any word about SRG in regards to demos?
I haven't heard anything about them at all. No.
Yeah, he hasn't followed up on his threat to disband SRG.
I was wondering, the one transfer that I noticed was Jimmy Keogh, which is he's a 1-star deputy chief. He went from counterterrorism over to special operations division as the tactics commander. He's still he was still designated as a commanding officer. So what I thought was that there's a possibility that SRG I heard rumors that SRG was going to be disbanded and put back to the borough task forces. So I don't know if they were going to do that, or they were going to put them back underneath SOD and rename it as some sort of tactical response, unit and stuff. Because right now, I don't know what Jimmy Keogh's doing there, because that was never a spot, right? So, but that's the rumors that I heard, and on my part, it's only speculation, so I'm not sure.
I haven't heard anything, so that's as far as we know. All right, good. Here we go. Neil01. Have you guys heard that Kaz Daughtry is going to work for probation department under Juanita Holmes? P.S. Were those found uniform Kaz's size? I'm not sure if the whole thing is a joke. I haven't heard anything about that. And last I saw on the last Juanita Holmes interview was that she had not had any conversations with Mayor Mamdani about staying on, and she retired from the police department. So I don't know if that means she retired from probation as well.
And I don't think they were Kaz, because they didn't have a big embroidered who I am on the front of those shirts. Oh, Sleepy Joe, I got you, bro. Sorry. At the same time I said it, Sleepy Joe said it.
There you go. William Robert Nolan from Facebook. What is the penalty for recording with a camera inside a station house? None. It's perfectly legal, and you're not allowed to record in confidential areas. So if you're asked to leave because of that or cease your recording because of that, you can be arrested for trespassing, but not just for recording inside of a precinct. It's a department policy, but the First Amendment auditors have, I don't want to say the word, use the word, proven that you are allowed to record within the precinct, but you can't be recording around anything confidential.
Yeah, I mean, it's public access. Anywhere there's public access, anywhere you can see with your eyes, you're actually allowed to view with a camera. I mean, there are locations where I would have a problem with that. You know, I mean, there are department policies, but policies don't override the Constitution or the laws. The only problem I would have with that is if somebody was, you know, in the complaint room, or somebody was filling out a 61 or a UF 61, which is a complaint report, and you're videotaping that, or you're able to see inside the cells, etc. So yeah, there are certain areas that you as the desk officer or station house security need to restrict that person from, so that they don't do that. And you could just easily tell them the reason for. So I do watch a lot of those auditors, and I think the best thing to do with that is just you know, be professional when you talk to them. That's all, because it goes on YouTube and everywhere else.
Yep. Yep. All right. Delray 53. Those are good questions. Geographically speaking, what are the pros, cons, and challenges of commanding a large command like the 111 precinct versus a small precinct like the 28? I think the pros, I don't know that there's pros of having a larger geographical area to cover, because you're always going to run into manpower issues and covering it. 111, fortunately, I was there actually as the commanding officer, so I could speak on it. Was a slower command. We used to jokingly, we were called, Nassau County West, and we had enough personnel to cover it. It wasn't that busy. And then you have like the 109 precinct, which is tremendous. They actually put a satellite out in the 109, but it's still, obviously, as we saw in that video with the drifters and the attack on that homeowner, and they only had 2 or 3 cars running for the whole one, which is impossible to police the 109 precinct with 2 or 3 cars. Geographically, it's huge, tremendous. And the 28 precinct, I'm not sure how small it is, but the smaller commands, usually they're smaller because they are more, the demographics are, much more compact. So that's why they're smaller, so you can police them. Again, it all comes down to manpower. Really, that's the challenge for everything, is manpower.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the 2-3, which is a smaller command. Similar. It's the advantage, I think, maybe not so much commanding and stuff, but you knew that backup for police officers was there faster and things. Bigger commands like the 4-9, which is geographically are very large. Response times are slower and stuff, and you have to understand that. Like you just said, Ron, is that if you don't have the amount of personnel, then your response time is going to go up. Everything's going to go up, and you're going to be held to the carpet for that. Like, why do you have a 25-minute response time when the citywide response time is 16 minutes? Well, I'm covering friggin' 3 or 4 miles of a command, as opposed to 1 square mile. So, but that's it in a nutshell.
Simply E, another longtime follower and listener. I appreciate your sticking with us and supporting us. If Tisch does not stand up to the troops, would the brass offer a vote of no confidence against Tisch? Has this ever happened in NYPD history? Not to my knowledge. I don't know that it's ever happened. I think the closest vote of no confidence was when everybody turned around at the Lou and Ramos funeral, and that was towards De Blasio, not towards the police commissioner. I don't know. You, Rob, you were on a little longer than me.
No, I
Earlier.
never heard of that. I was never even told that we would do that.
No.
You know, there was always times where, you know, people didn't like the police commissioner that was there, but, and I don't think the unions or anybody else ever did anything about it. So,
All right. And then QC Beast is asking, and this will be our last question. What about challenges between running a PSA, transit district, or precinct as a CO? I was a lieutenant in transit. I was an XO in a PSA, and I was a CO of a couple of precincts. And then I was the borough commander in the Bronx, overseeing 3 PSAs. But the challenges between the one and the 3, when you're a precinct or a transit commander, it's kind of strange because you're taking the crime, and the crime counts for you, but it also counts for the precinct. So you're answering to the bureau chief, whether it's housing or transit, but you're also having a lot of interaction with the PSB borough. Like we had a lot of meetings with the Queens, a lot of meetings with Bronx boroughs, and had to go to their ComStats and everything else. So I think it's answering to more than one parent, I used to call it, makes it a little more difficult in the PSA and the transit district.
yeah, I don't have that question really. I can't answer that question because I mean, I did temporarily in a precinct, but I never, you know, with the PSA. I mean, I know when I was in a 2-3, we had a lot of housing developments, you know, so yeah, that was a lot of coordination, stuff like that with them, because of the crime that associated with the housing developments, or the housing developments used to make sure that the guy was shot on the far side of the street past the yellow line and accounted for the precinct. So there was things you had to make sure, but yeah. So
Yeah, and that's a challenge too. You're right. Yeah, the challenge too. Where exactly did it happen? Did it happen on which side of the double yellow lines? Did it happen on the sidewalk? Did it happen on house side? Was it top side? Was it downstairs? Yeah.
Why is there blood drips coming from the housing development to my side?
But that happened. Hey, listen, that happens even in the precincts when it comes to boundary wars. I had a homicide one time. I was a CO to 110. Guy was getting pistol whipped and beat on the 115 side, and really bad. The guy was chasing him down the block, shooting at him, and he literally fell in the middle of Roosevelt Avenue on my side of the double yellow lines. So I ate the homicide, even though everything happened on the 115 side. The guy the body fell on my side. So I know I said that was the last one, but let's give Julio the last one. Do you guys believe the next PC will be another civilian?
I believe it's going to be Eason Abassi from prior NYPD experience, now over with the Patterson Police Department or Passaic Police Department as their
actually with the New Jersey Attorney General.
No, that's the Attorney General. Yep. So overseeing that, I think his contract's up sometime in the next couple of months. So that's my guess. But I don't see a civilian. I see him picking somebody that has prior law enforcement and somebody he can mold and manipulate. That's my opinion. Another sucker punch from Mamdani.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you again for all the questions. Really appreciate it. We love the engagement. And anything else before we sign off?
No, I just want to wish everybody a again a happy new year. Thanks for being with us. We've been doing this almost a year, right? We're coming up on a year anniversary in a couple of weeks. So, really appreciate everybody. Appreciate the chat. We love the interaction. Love the questions. Again, Ron will always tell you, you can throw questions at us. Send it to us via the email. This way we can, have them, and we'll put them up right away when we get them. My quick thing is I want to thank everybody that pushes for our platform with the Finest Unfiltered. I know we hit 80,000 followers today.
Oh,
So
did we?
we hit 8,000. John announced it on the show today. So I really appreciate that. I also say, and I say, if your family, your wife, your husband, your significant other, kids, family members, have them watch all the shows, because I think it's educational. A lot of times police officers come home and we say, I had a bad day. This EDP did this and EDP did that. And the spouse is like, what's an EDP? And you're like, forget about it. I can't explain it. You watch our show. We go through things. We talk about a lot of things that happen to a police officer. So if family members want to watch, have them jump on, join the podcast, become subscribers, because they'll learn things too. And then when you go home and you say, oh, I had a bad day, the CO, he was a dick, he gave me a CD. They're not going to say, what's a CD? They're going to say, oh man, what was it for? Did they take any time? Did they do this? So it's all good, and we would love to have family members and everybody else in the chat. So let's,
and they'll understand when they get no cash.
Maybe they'll completely understand when the no cash, and they'll know when the 28's denied and everything else. So, but again, thank you everybody. Appreciate your help. All our great friends in the podcast, 92 Charlie, Modern Cerami, Terry Munane, always there, always giving us thumbs up. We appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Absolutely, I second everything that Rob says. Thank you again for another great show. All right, next show on the Finest Unfiltered is going to be, and I'll get to that in a second, is going to be on Friday for the roundtable with John, Eric, and Marlon, who's in the chat tonight, a fire detective. And then they'll be back again on Monday for their regular show, talking about whatever's topical in the NYPD and New York City politics, followed by the 10-4 Tavern with Tommy Joyce and Pete Fuselli. Another great show last night. Retired detective commander.
Lieutenant, right? Yep.
Lieutenant detective commander on the show. Another great show last night. Go back and watch their repeat on the channel. Really appreciate that. That's Tuesday night at 7:05 p.m. 19:05 military time. 7:05 p.m. That's the 10-4 Tavern. And then we'll be back next Wednesday, 5:05 p.m. for your next installment of the Executive's Perspective. And for those who aren't aware, who haven't seen the other shows, the Sal Greco show, Sal has gone off, and Sal is now exclusively on the Sal Greco show. I just put the link in our chat. So Sal Greco is going to be doing his shows on the Sal Greco Network on YouTube and all the other platforms. His shows are changing. They're going, instead of Tuesday and Thursday, he's going to be Monday and Thursday. And instead of at 1:05 p.m., he's now going to be at 11:05 a.m. So 11:05 a.m. Monday and Thursday on the Sal Greco channel on YouTube. And you could Google him. His X is the same. Everything else is the same. He's just, creative differences, and it happens. So just going forward, Sal will be with Jack on his channel. So definitely, we're all friends, and we wish him the best of luck moving forward. And don't look more into it than it is, people. It's nothing negative and everything else. Yes, no. Jack Stern is with Sal. He's the producer and content. He contributes to content on the Sal Greco show. So, with that being said, I want to say thank you again to everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Until then, be safe.